our discussion of the 10th canto, first 4 chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describe the activities, birth, and appearance of Lord Sri Krishna. So we can't get enough of this. This is about 50 years ago. I was first introduced to the concept of Krishna. And I thought to myself, I felt like I'd been missing something all these years, because I was thinking God was just someone who was, we had one chance and we were either being sent to hell forever with no chance of ever getting out, or we would go to heaven and live a happy life, forever. So I was a little dismayed, because my image of God was that of a old man, possibly sitting on a cloud, with a gavel in hand behind a big desk somewhere in the sky, and slamming it down, going, "You go to hell forever," And I thought, wow. So even my mother is more compassionate than God, because my mother wouldn't do that. Not to me. She loved me unconditionally. And I thought, wow, she gives me multiple chances, but God only gives me one. How can this possibly be? And so the image of God that I had as a young Christian child was a bit fearful, honestly. And fear is a good impetus to do the right thing. Okay? There's no problem with fear, but it is the primal base emotion that we have, right? And all animals have fear. If you read in the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about how we fall into the material pool, okay, if we're not very careful, and then we experience the greatest type of fear. So if you look at an animal, you'll see that an animal's always got one ear open or one eye open. I mean, even some birds stand on one leg and sleep on one side and keep the other side awake, because the predators are coming, and they're going to come and eat them. So Kala is Krishna's form of time. Time I am, the destroyer of all the worlds, and I've come to engage all peoples. This is what Werner von Braun said when he saw the atomic bomb. He quoted Krishna in Bhagavad Gita.
I'm sorry.
Werner von Braun? Werner von Braun. He was the gentleman who helped to create the atomic bomb, which killed so many, many people. And now we're under the threat of this nuclear holocaust and havoc that could destroy our planet. Literally kill all, wipe out all people. So now we're being threatened by this. So this is kind of appropriate way to start this conversation. Because at the time before Krishna came, the world was overburdened by kings who were actually demons. And even though they looked like kings and occupied the post of kings, they were demoniac. So why were they demoniac?
Because they wanted to lord over and give very little back.
Thank you very much. They did not honor the sacrifice to the demigods and to the Lord, but instead wanted to hoard that, and they were, clamoring their weapons and their shields. Oh, I could easily defeat you. I can defeat you. I can defeat you. And this is what's going on in the world we see today. We see that happens between Russia, the United States, China, all these, North Korea, all these entities saying, oh yes, well I could destroy you from the face of the earth in just a few moments. So they have this power that they've discovered, right? The Brahmastra, which we're familiar with in the story of Ashvatam, right? In the Bhagavatam. But nonetheless, they don't know how to use it. And it's like a child playing with fire. They're certain to burn themselves at some point, right? So we would think that 60 years ago, whenever the atomic weapon was dropped on Hiroshima, that would have been sufficient, because we saw the destruction. But some people are easily forgetting. Just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yada yada hi dharmasha, glanir bhavati bharata, abhutanami dharmasha, tadatmanam srijamiham. Millennium after millennium, I come again and again and again to reestablish the principles of religion. Why? Because we constantly forget these things. We have short memory span. We are weak, insufficient in every possible way. So therefore, we, especially in Kali Yuga, we have very short memory span. So we forget the lessons that we're being taught by Mother Nature, literally, okay, who acts on behalf of the Lord, right? So all the demigods act on behalf of the Lord. Brahma acts on behalf of the Lord. Shiva, greatest devotee of the Lord, like that. And then all of your demigods. In one place it says there are 33 million primary demigods. But in another place in Bhagavatam it talks about 90 million demigods. So when we look out the stars at night, we think, oh, we're the only ones here. Come on. The demigods are occupying the hellish worlds. Yamaraja's planets are there. They're every kind of thing we can imagine. But just like it says in Bhagavatam, it says that a person who doesn't enter into the nature of Lord Sri Krishna cannot know Krishna. Just like you can't enter your body into fire because your body is not a fire body. But there are fire bodies. We may not be able to perceive fire bodies with these current senses and this understanding. But there are bodies made of all different descriptions: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, like that. Okay? So in the same way, our situation is we have to become holy, like Krishna. It would be like a drop of water saying, no, I don't want to be 2 parts oxygen, hydrogen, and salt. I don't want that. I'm rebelling from the ocean. So what would that actually become if it did that, right? I mean, what sphere would it live within? So Kamsa said because of his demoniac nature, he wasn't sure what place he would be transferred to after death or even while breathing. He said like that because he was so sinful. He was so destructive. He had separated himself from God and was experiencing atheism. Actually, Vishnu killed him in a previous lifetime, and he had this obsession with Vishnu. He wants to kill Vishnu. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So the demons are always thinking, if you read the verse Divine Demoniac, or the chapter Divine Demoniac in Bhagavad Gita, you'll see the demons are thinking, so much do I have now. So much more shall I have in the future. I've killed these enemies, and any other enemy that approaches, I will also kill them. I'm perfect, I'm powerful, and I am happy. Yes, I shall give some charity. Of course. But the demon is always thinking, I am the ultimate God and controller. That's why many people, when you read what our prayer to Srila Prabhupada is in the pranam prayers, it says that he's come to vanquish Mayavadi philosophy and personalism and voidism. Because, we have come here thinking we are God, and therefore we want to be the Lord of all we survey. We want everyone to bow and to worship us. What, do they not know our prowess over all that be and our dominion over this planet? Do they not know that? Can they not see that? That's what we're thinking. And this is the worst case of pride. So that's how we fall down into the lower species of life. We fall into these categories. And you see there's 8,400,000 species of life. You can try each one of them. You already have. But somehow or another you've come to Bhagavatam class today. And all we're going to be talking about is how you can be liberated from this cycle of samsara, the wheel of birth, death, old age, and disease. And you can be liberated and go back home, back to Godhead. Haribol. Hare Krishna. So you had a question?
Yeah, Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada talks about the Mayavadi philosophies and impersonalism. Who is he referring to?
Mayavadi means knowledge stolen by illusion. Mayavadi means that which is not actually real. There are, just like even if you look at some of these denominations, like in Christianity, there's 68,000 denominations of Christianity, one Jesus.
68,000?
I mean, why don't we just have one thing? What Jesus said, that's our understanding. But now they've created, because their intelligence has been stolen by illusion, and they are trying to rationalize their sinful behaviors.
From my understanding, generally, some people are under the impression that you can't know God as a person And so the best thing you can hope to do is to just unite with his energy.
Mm.
And that's kind of...
That's the impersonalistic philosophy,
Yeah.
and that's one aspect of self-realization. Brahman realization means we emerge into the light as an atom of light in God's light that emanates from his body. But the next realization is chit. Chit means that we now have knowledge of the Paramatma, the super soul that lives in every atom. Okay? So that super soul is based on a higher understanding. So that's Paramatma realization. Okay? Chit realization. That's actual knowledge. But beyond that is what?
Ananda?
Bhagavan.
Wow.
Bhagavan. Chit, Ananda. Ananda is what it is, but that's Bhagavan realization, because by the personal relationship, a person becomes blissful. They become happy. Because we need love. We need a relationship. We want that love. Unfortunately, we've reposed our love in so many unworthy places. And we thought maybe a woman could make me happy, or maybe if I had enough money I could be happy, or maybe if I had the most beautiful children, they would finally make me happy, or maybe if I was the king of a world or a kingdom and everyone was my sovereignty, then I would truly be happy. Just like in some religions they're offering multiple virgins, you know. Now, you probably couldn't handle one, okay? So I mean, what do you need with all of that? But what I'm explaining is that to entice us to religion, they've frightened us with eternal damnation. They've enticed us with unlimited sex pleasure. And even Karmakanda in the Vedas entices us with higher birth, higher elevation, longer life, right?
More well-equipped senses.
More well-equipped senses with powers.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Mahima, Lahima, Anima, all these different senses, all these yogic powers. What do we want them for? So we can reach out and get gold and bring it back. So this is all Asura philosophy. This is all against our very nature. It's the reason we exist. As long as we want something in the material world, as long as we're seeking profit, fame, adoration, and distinction, we will take another material body. It will die. Krishna said on the battlefield to Arjuna, while you're speaking, learning words, you're mourning for what is not even worthy of your grief. Never was there a time when that did not exist, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall ever we cease to be. And then he says, I've spoke this imperishable science to Vivishwan, the sun god. And Arjuna goes, hold up. How's this possible? Vivishwan's elder to you by birth. Krishna goes, ha ha. Many, many births both you and I have taken. I can remember all of them. You cannot. So we're immortal souls. Right? So all of that is there for us. We transmigress from one body to the next. And then we forget, just like in a dream. You don't know who you are. You woke up this morning, you were again Sachi. But last night you may have been in a dream thinking you were something else. Or you've forgotten completely who you were. You had no idea where you were. It's called a little death. So in our death, we give up this body and accept the next body wholeheartedly, and we forget our situation. How many times do you want to keep doing that? How many times do you have to be reprimanded by your own activities before you actually wake up? Right? How many billions of times do we have to go through this Groundhog Day of waking up, finding ourselves again in a material body that's rotting? It's filled with disease. I mean, we're simply sacks of fluid. Or we're an immortal spiritual soul. Which one do you choose? Do you get it? Do you get it? So really, we have to be completely finished with the material nature to go back home, back to Godhead. We have to see that this nature is actually God's inferior nature. It's not his superior nature. This is his inferior nature. It's separated energy. So do you want to be separated from the perfect love? From the most beautiful personality you've always been seeking? All these movie stars? You know, my I have a friend, okay, and they love these old Cary Grant and all these old movies. And I go, yes, but their bodies are rotting in a casket somewhere. So what happened to your idol? That's your idol? Not mine. That's not my idol. You have to have an idol that is an avatar. Avatar means one who crosses down to the material sphere and demonstrates the spiritual world through their activities. They are acharya. Okay? And by their demonstration, we become attracted to go back home, back to Godhead. That's why it says association is like a crystal ball. Whatever you associate with, you're going to reflect. So you need to associate with the Vaishnavas. So somehow today, you are so fortunate that you've decided to take the trouble and transport your material body to the yoga hall to hear about Krishna. Where's the rest of Nashville? There's a couple million people here we're missing today. Because they don't know their self-interest. In the beginning of the 10th canto, it says, who will not hear? Who will not listen attentively to the glories of Sri Krishna? Only the butcher? Or that person who is bent on suicide? Those are the people who don't want to hear about Krishna. And by the way, there are many, many innocent persons who've not yet heard. That's why Prabhupada's disciples now, and his grand disciples, etc., and friends of Prabhupada, have all distributed over 500 million books into the world. And they're like little seeds that will sprout in the heart. And then the heart will melt, and then Krishna can come in and sit on the throne of our hearts, and we can worship the Lord in that way. Just like Vasudeva, he was in the prison house of Kamsa in shackles. But when Krishna finally came to him, in his mind, he had no access to anything. So in his mind, he gave 10,000 cows fully decorated to the Brahmins. So devotional service can take place on any level. And there's no restriction. It can happen in the prison house. It can happen anywhere. Doesn't matter. So what we'll do, a little preliminary conversation there, but what we'll do is let's recant a little bit of the pastime of the Lord of descending to this world for our benefit. And he comes as many times as there are waves that crash against the ocean. And this is taking place all over various material universes everywhere. Arjuna, Mother Yasoda, Nanda, Vasudeva, Devaki, all of the demigods are coming for these pastimes. So when Mother Bhumi felt the burden of the earth with all of these demoniac kings, she took the form of a cow and approached Lord Brahma and asked him with the tears in her eyes. She said, Lord Brahma, please, can you alleviate this pain and burden that I'm carrying with all these demoniac kings exploiting the earth? And Brahma said, let's go get Shiva. Okay. And we'll call the other demigods. And we'll all go to the milk ocean where Vishnu is, across the milk ocean. And we'll recite the Purusha Shukta prayers. So there's so many wonderful prayers. And these prayers are famous because they're repeated again and again and again whenever Krishna comes. These pastimes are eternal pastimes. Kala is eternal. Kala time is also eternal. The only thing that's not eternal is karma. You can change that. You can change your karma today. You did change your karma today. When you got up, put your socks on and your britches, and you came down here today, you washed yourself clean of all sinful reactions. But you don't want to be like the elephant. What does the elephant do?
Cleans itself and bathes in the dirt once again.
It gets out of the water perfectly clean. It gets dirt and throws it all over itself again. So we don't want to do that. We want to keep ourselves clean. Krishna says, keep all abominable things far away by the practice of devotional service. So everything we do for Krishna. Right? And there's no material reaction for that. That becomes your liberation. That's your liberation. You are already now experiencing that liberation.
Okay, forgive me if this is an esoteric question, but you're describing the pastimes as eternal, and they keep playing out again and again. I understand that demigods like Indra and Brahma, those are posts, so different jivas will fill that post. The personalities within, like, Krishna's pastimes, like Arjuna or the gopis, Mother Yashoda, if those are playing out again and again, is it all the same jiva, or are there different jivas that fulfill that post?
Well, that's an excellent question. Whether either way is okay with us, obviously. But Krishna does say in the Shastra that whenever there's no qualified individual to take Brahma's post, that he will come as a plenary portion of a portion. So the demigods are individual jiva souls when available. It's kind of like, we had a band, but if some of the members can't make it, we got somebody to step in. We got a substitute teacher. But Krishna comes and fills all those posts. There's no question about it. He'll do that. But Arjuna is is of the same nature as Krishna, so he can expand unlimitedly with Krishna in those pastimes. That's also mentioned in the Shastra.
Okay.
So there's no limitation to how Krishna can function. But so what happens is when they go and how he can expand. We saw that with Krishna's pastimes of when Brahma stole the cowherd boys, and then Krishna just expanded into all the cowherd boys. There's no problem, no problem. So when they go to the milk ocean and they chant the prayers, no one is hearing any sound, but Brahma is vibrating in his trance. He hears it within his heart. And Krishna says to him, I already know the problem. I knew it before you came. So this is Krishna. Okay? We may not know, but Krishna knows. Okay? He knows everything all the time. Omnipotent, omnipresent, like that. So he told the demigods that immediately, along with your wives, you take birth. He said, soon I will join you, and then our pastimes will continue, okay, of ridding the earth of the demoniac influences that you've come to petition me to get rid of. So, what is it? Parityanaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstar panartaya sambhavami yuge. So, millennium after millennium, yuge. I come again and again and again and again and again. Why? Paritranaya sadhunam. That means that I deliver the sadhus. I protect the devotees. What's that? Vinashaya chaduskritam. What does that mean?
Okay. I know the three reasons: protect the devotees, destroy the miscreants, and
Duskritam means miscreants. So to come to kill the demons. So he kills the demons, and then he reestablishes Dharma. Okay, because we forget Dharma. We forget who our master is. We think our senses are our masters. Primarily tongue, belly, genital. And we're chasing them just like dogs that have no restriction. And no one is satisfied. No one is happy with that. Everyone is exploited, and everyone falls down again in the material pool when we do that. So Krishna comes again and again and again out of his kindness, and when he comes, he shows us the spiritual world. Because his full entourage comes with him. He don't go anywhere by himself. Wherever he goes, it's like if the president goes somewhere, there's all these entourage and these cars and all this stuff. That's nothing. They're nothing. They're like little grains of sand compared to Krishna. Right?
It sounds like, too, based on how you described it, that entourage is so empowered by Krishna that those eternal pastimes playing out all, like, that's just such a level of specialness that I'm like over here just freaking out.
Yeah.
Dr. Simon is officially freaking out. I love that. Wow. If we could spread that around Nashville a little bit, we get everybody freaking out for Krishna. That'd be great. Thank you, Dr. Simon. So yes, what happens when we become self-realized, many times the hair will stand on end. chills will go up down the back, and tears will flow from the eyes. The voice is choked. Many times when Krishna comes, the devotees fall before the Lord. They can't even speak. They want to say wonderful prayers, but they can't even get it together.
Yeah.
I mean, they're horripilating. Horripilation. Means to have all these ecstatic feelings. That's what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. Came to show us that we're meant for these pleasures that are higher taste, not based in the material senses, but based in the transcendental senses. I mean, we're not bereft of anything. We'll be tasting nice prasad, but we don't taste any food that's not offered to the Lord, ever. We don't want it. But verily one eats only sin when they eat food that's not been first offered. So Krishna explains that in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Ya Yo Me Bhaktya Prayachati. Bhaktya. Offer me with love, and I will receive leaf, flower, fruit, and water. So, but those who do not eat food first offered verily eat only sin. So what does sin mean? Sin means that which is separated from Krishna. No. You've got. Hey, listen, I'm not shy.
It's just tap water.
Tap water.
That's all I had
We're
right
not
now.
doing that. There's a
I'm so
little
hard.
cooler over there on the right, though. No, on the right there, in the other room where you are. Anyway, but the idea is that everything we do for Krishna, just Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yagyartat karmanon yatra loko yam karma bandhana tadartam karma kontaya mukta sangha samachara. In other words, you should do all your work, everything you do, you should do as a sacrifice for Krishna. Otherwise, it binds one to the material world. We don't want to be bound here. We want to be free. So the regulative principles of freedom, Krishna talks about, calls them regulative principles of freedom. Just like if the sun was not regulated and all the universe was deregulated, it'd be totally chaos. Everything would be bouncing and crashing into one another. Just like if we had no stop signs and we had no red lights and nobody said, "Oh, I'm not following," then there'd be unlimited accidents, deaths, destruction at every moment. So we have to regulate ourselves. We have to do that. And the Vedas are meant for that purpose of regulation, but not meant ultimately for any material gain, only meant for the purpose of developing this devotional mood towards the Lord and falling in love with God again. So what happens, there you go.
One more time.
There you go. Thank you, brother. Bhavananda Prabhu. Bhavananda is a wonderful servant of the Lord and of the Vaishnava. And now he presented some nice water. Krishna says, I am the taste of water, so Hare Krishna. Delicious. So after this happens, he said, everyone take your berth in the material world, get ready for the pastimes. So everyone that was surrounding the Lord in his pastimes, they were all demigods. Did you know that? Even the ones who were hanging out with Kamsa. Even the ones who supported Kamsa. So it's all a pastime of the Lord, Some people, they're Kshatriya type personalities, like war, they like to fight. They're Brahmins, we're very peaceful, we don't no fighting, like that. Vaishya is very encouraged by agriculture and, working the land and providing sustenance. And then Sudra, one who just wants to help out in every possible way. And that's all good. And all of those can be, that Varna ashram system, can all be liberated and go back home, back to Godhead by following those regulative principles of freedom. But what happens when we quit making offerings, when we quit doing sacrifice, when we quit doing that, the world becomes miserable. We have drought, we have famine. You ever heard of this? Funny, today we're experiencing a lot of that.
It's one of the reasons not to come back, because the longer you spend in this earth, the more likely it is you're going to go through something like
Razor's edge, probably that's it. So one little slip, painful. So what happens? So, all right. So Vasudeva and Devaki, Vasudeva is son of Sudarsena, and who lived in Mathura. In Mathura, Krishna is Krishna's permanent home. There's 3 types of pastimes. There's the Braj Leela, which Krishna does in Vrindavan, Mathura Leela, and then Dwarka Leela. So there's different Leelas, and the Srimad Bhagavatam builds us to all of those, and we can understand those very wonderful pastimes of the Lord in all of those situations. But it all starts with Krishna's appearance. So what happens? They're on the way home. There are something like 1,800 chariots. It's unbelievable, man. Golden chariots. Everybody's blowing conch shells. They just finished the wedding vows, Devaki and Vasudeva. And they're now in procession to the palace, right? And they're surrounded with, 400 elephants that were given by Devaka, which is Devaki's father, right? And these 400 elephants, 10,000 horses, everybody's bedecked, and 200 maidservants. Beautiful virgin girls, maidservants going to the palace as well, like that. So this procession is going down the main boulevard. Everyone is showering. The demigods are showering flowers. Everything is going on. The doobie drums are beating. Everybody's very happy. And then all of a sudden, of course, King Kamsa, because it's his sister, he grabs the reins of the chariot to take her home. And he's got the chariot, the fine horse. Here's the king leading the procession. All of a sudden, what happens?
Kamsa takes the knot of Devaki's hair
Well, why?
because he was told that the 8th son would be.
So there's an unembodied voice
Mhm.
that happens in the sky.
While they're coming back, is that when that happens?
Well, on the
Or is-
way to the,
Okay.
they've already been married, they're
So
going
that's,
home.
Vishnu is taken birth to kill you.
Yeah, it says that, you fool, do you not know that the 8th child of your sister will kill you?
Mm.
Immediately, without hesitation, he grabs her by the lock of her hair,
Mm.
pulls his sword, and starts to behead her.
Mm.
Right there on the chariot. Now, see, demons, there's a thing it says in there, it says, what is not possible for demoniac? What horrendous activity is not possible for the demoniac? And we're always amazed at what level these demons operate on, aren't we? They have no feeling at all. They're numb.
If they were demigods at one point, why would they become?
These are pastimes of the Lord. Try to understand that the demigods are servants of God, and they've achieved a very high level of service in relationship to the Lord. Whatever the Lord's pastime is, they're willing to engage in it. Do you not know that Vijaya and Vijaya were doorkeepers to the kingdom of the spiritual world, but they became Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha?
Mm.
Oh yeah. So they took the role of demons. Why? For the pleasure of the Lord. The Lord likes to sport. He's also Kshatriya.
Mm.
He likes it. And so people, there are devotees who worship the Lord in various rasas. So you want
And the 5 those are just of love, but there's 12 rasas, right? That's what I read
in
one of the commentaries.
Rasamrita Sindhu.
I read it in a Bhagavatam commentary. Yeah.
So, these particular rasas are multifarious because you've got a mother, you've got a father, father and mother of God.
Mm-hmm. But also the demons.
Yeah, but you've also got the demons.
Yeah.
So, what you might be talking about, the emotions, there are emotions of horror, and all these other things that you can experience in these relationships with God and ecstasy with God, So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that is well described, and we'll make that study another time. It's a great read, though. You should read that. Nectar of Instruction and Nectar of Devotion. So, okay, so what happens is Vasudeva stops him and says, whoa, wait. He said, this is your sister. You're going to kill her on her wedding day. This is not appropriate. Don't do this. So he began to speak wonderful philosophy. Everyone everywhere should read that. His argument that, listen, we're not the material body, so you shouldn't worry about these things. Just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, you're not the material body. You're worrying about those things that are not worthy of your concern, because when you're born, your death is guaranteed anyway. I mean, you're going to die. It's just the way it is, and then you'll take another body. So we shouldn't worry about this. So he starts elaborating on this very lofty philosophy to Vasudeva. And Vasudev's like, So he hesitates for a few moments, and then he goes, nah, I'm going to kill her anyway. So he starts to kill her anyway, because, like I said, a demon is capable of any heinous activity, and he's not well equipped to hear good philosophy and good advice. Right? So he decides he's going to kill her anyway. Then Vasudeva has to come up with a second plan. Do you know what his second plan was?
Does he offer something?
He did. He offered him that, because Vasudeva was known as thoroughly honest, right? His word was his.
Yes.
Yeah. So he said, oh, okay, well, there's no need to kill her now. It's the 8th son that's going to kill you, so don't worry about it. Let's just go ahead and save your face. You don't have to kill her here in front of all these people. He said, you can kill the 8th son, and if you want, we'll give you every son when the child is born, and then you can do as you will. And he thought, if I do this, I can delay this situation, and additionally, if he dies in the meantime, then I've saved the whole situation. I've saved Devaki and ourselves. And anyway, Providence is in control of all of this, so we have to wait and see what God's will is. So what happens, he goes, oh, okay, that sounds pretty good. So the procession goes, and they go back to the palaces and all this stuff. So, but after the first son was born, Vasudeva presents the son to Kamsa. Kamsa goes, pretty cool. He said, well, you've done as you said you would do, and the first son is not a problem for me. He's not destined to come. But you can have the son back. Go enjoy yourself. No problem. Right? Because then he realized Vasudeva was being thoroughly honest. So what happened? So what happens is then our transcendental spaceman, Narada, who is actually the third incarnation in the Srimad Bhagavatam of God, and Narada, or at least empowered by God in that situation, and but he's listed as third incarnation in Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada comes and says, do you not know that all of these people that are surrounding Devaki and Vasudeva, they're all demigods. Everybody's here to fulfill the pastime of the Lord, and how can you trust this? You know that Krishna is going to kill you. So he thought, so then he threw him in jail and put him in shackles, right? So Narada set that up. Narada does this. He's a catalytic agent for the Lord to set up the future pastimes of the Lord. So it's pretty cool that he does that. He goes around all of the material universe. He's not restricted. He goes to the spiritual universe too. He can go anywhere.
Setting the platform for the pastime.
Exactly, setting up the platform for the pastime. So when Narada comes, he goes, wow, any one of them could kill me. I should definitely immediately put them in prison. But he did. So as each child was born, what did he do?
Killed him, right?
Yeah. He went in there and they handed the baby, grabbed the baby by the legs and dashed its brains out on the stone. How heinous. Right? So then on the 7th child, the 7th son, you heard the 7th son? So the 7th son was who?
Balaram.
Balaram.
Yeah, right.
Balaram. So when Balaram appeared, he was transferred to the womb of Rohini, who was another wife of Vasudeva, who was living in Nanda's palace, okay, with Yasoda. And he then took birth from Rohini. Now, when that was done, there was an apparent miscarriage. And so everybody's, alas, Devaki's had a miscarriage. So that's the way they overcame the 7th son of Balaram. Then Krishna, now it's time for his appearance. Right? So what happens? So what happens when Krishna is appearing, first of all, the world becomes extremely pleasant.
Mhm.
They're very beautiful breezes in the air, the aromas, the flowers, everything is more beautiful than it's ever been. The demigods are showering flowers from the heavenly planets, and they're beating of drums. It sounds like soft thunder, very calming sound of thunder. And the Brahmins are feeling very happy and peaceful. Even though they're being persecuted by Kamsa, all of a sudden they become very, very peaceful and happy. And the world is all auspicious. So what happens? When Krishna appears, first of all, he tells Yogamaya to appear as the the daughter of Nanda and Yasoda in Vrindavan simultaneously, right? So she's born, Krishna's sister's born simultaneously, basically, and Krishna appears in the mind of Vasudeva. And Vasudeva became luminous like the sun, unbearable to look at, because Krishna, his effulgence had entered into Vasudeva. So try to imagine, in this prison cell, it's lit up. And then what does he do? He transfers Krishna into the mind and the core of the heart of Devaki. So then the Lord, he appears in his four-armed form, fully bedecked with Kaustubha jewel, Vaidurya gem, marks of Srivats, club, lotus, conch shell, Sudarshan chakra, all of that is there with the Lord. His hair is fully grown. He is wearing yellow garments like that.
So what did Krishna appear with his four weapons? Then why does
he appear with his arm, his
Yeah.
forearm form as Narayan? Because there are two reasons. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, he wanted to explain his position to his parents. He wanted them to understand that this is the third time that they have been his parents. And he explained their previous life where they did 10,000 celestial years of, eating only dry leaves in the forest and performing these austerities to get Krishna as their son. And so the first birth that he took from them was Prishni and Sutapa. And the second was as the son Vamana. He was Vamandev. And now he comes as Krishna to Devaki and Yasoda. So it's the third time out. And he explained to them that they wanted a son exactly like him. So he fulfilled their desires, and they became the mother and father of God. That's pretty strong, man. That's about as strong as it gets, okay? Not going to get much stronger than that. So he appears before them, and they offer prayers. And you should read those prayers, the personality of Godhead, prior to this, though, the demigods came and offered beautiful prayers. Shiva and Brahman, everybody came in the prison while she was with child. And those prayers are amazing, too. I was going to read some of these prayers. We're going to run out of time, so I won't do it. But just know that Vasudeva's prayers were the most realized prayers you could ever possibly imagine.
Are you giving us homework?
You want some? I'll give you some. You can study those prayers, and then the next time we'll have a conversation.
Just thinking about
They're in the third chapter, I think, of the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. You should definitely read those. And then there's prayers by the demigods. There is a chapter for that. I think that's the second chapter, if I'm not mistaken. And then when Krishna appears, there are the prayers of Vasudeva and Devaki. And they're extremely realized prayers of the Lord. But Devaki's prayers are so sweet because she's the mother of God. Her heart is so tender. And she's so wonderful spoken in these prayers that definitely your heart will melt. And you'll invite Krishna to come and into the core of your heart after hearing these stories, after hearing these wonderful prayers. But the demigods were very, very concise as well. They explained. Well, I'll just read you maybe just one little verse or two from the demigods. And this was before Krishna's appearance. They came while she was carrying the Lord in the womb. Let's see if I can find that for you. Okay, here we go. So the demigods prayed. And this is verse text 26 in the, the chapter called Prayers by the Demigods for Lord Krishna in the Womb. That's chapter 2. I was right about that. Okay, so text 26, basically, let me get back to that.
All things are in me.
Text 26, chapter 2, 10th canto. They say, so it says, first of all, in 25, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, accompanied by great sages like Narada, Devala, Vyas, and other demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna, invisibly approached the room of Devaki, where they all joined in offering their respectful obeisances and prayers to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who can bestow blessings upon everyone. The demigods prayed, O Lord, you never deviate from your vow, which is always perfect.
What text is that?
26.
26.
Because whatever you decide is perfectly correct and cannot be stopped by anyone. Being present in the three phases of cosmic manifestation, creation, maintenance, and annihilation, you are the supreme truth. Indeed, unless one is completely truthful, one cannot achieve your favor, which therefore cannot be achieved by hypocrites. You are the active principle, the real truth, in all ingredients of creation, and therefore you are known as, Antaryami, the inner force. You are equal to everyone, and your instructions apply for everyone for all time. You are the beginning of all truth. Therefore, offering our obeisances, we surrender unto you. Kindly give us your protection. So this is Shiva and Brahma and all the demigods asking to be surrendered to the Lord. So if you look at what Krishna says, Arjuna says in the Bhagavad Gita, it's very similar. He says, now I am a soul surrendered to you. Please instruct me. Right? Mm-hmm. So the axiom in the Bhagavad Gita is, what is it? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. In other words, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. And who's the original spiritual master? Balaram. Balaram. Adi Guru. Adi Guru. He's the first expansion.
Balaram is a spiritual master?
Yes, of all the universes.
I thought Krishna was a supreme guru, right?
His first expansion is as Balaram. So Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. He's chilled out. He expands in plenary portions, and portions of plenary portions. And Krishna is unlimitedly expandable, so like that. So that's how you have to understand these things. We got to expand your mind first. Let Krishna fit in there a little bit. Krishna can't even understand his own folks. He's that incredible. So that means just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively. Render service unto him. The spiritual master can impart truth to you because he's self-realized soul. He has seen the truth. So he can give you the truth. So this is, Krishna is asking everyone to become spiritual master. Everyone. You should become spiritual master. Everyone should take up the mantle, but to do that, you have to become thoroughly honest yourself. You have to become qualified. You can't be bogus guru. Because then you just simply go off the cliff and take everyone with you. It's like these demons are saying, I'm not going to die alone, I'm going to take everybody with me. And they go in and just start shooting. But Prabhupada said, I do not wish to be liberated alone. My compassion for all the fallen, ignorant, lost souls in the material world are simply struggling hard, for existence. I desire to take them all with me. That's Prabhupada's prayer.
Talking about the guru, there's a beautiful series, one of the devotee made, Turn to the Guru series from all the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, and they made 65 videos, just about 10 minutes each, from all the different lectures.
I love that.
It-
Oh, you sent me a link to that.
I sent to
Yeah,
everyone.
I watched that link.
Turn to the Guru. It's Srila Prabhupada
It's
preaching
called-
in every classes, right?
Yeah.
They took all that and cut it,
Cut
all
it,
the
edited
shorts
it out, yeah.
in like 10 minutes videos, 5 minutes videos.
You can learn so much from that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You sent me that, and
Yes.
I went through a bunch of those videos. I think it's Prabhupada Vani, isn't it?
Vani Media.
Vani Media. You can look that
So
up.
Vani is essentially the word of the
Of course,
Guru.
yeah. There's Vapu and Vani, and so
Yeah.
Prabhupada's Vani is his instruction. So that's more important to us than anything. So back to the story. So the demigods offered prayers, and then when Krishna appeared in his four-armed form, Devaki and Vasudeva offered beautiful prayers. After that, Devaki asked at the end, please return to your two-armed form, because this form of four arms is not natural for this world. This is a spiritual form. No one will understand this. And I'll even be ridiculed and persecuted. Of course, she was going to be ridiculed and persecuted.
What was the other reason you said he wanted to show his position to his parents? What was the second reason for him displaying his four-armed form?
So that he could then have the prayers of their parent, and then once they understood his position as Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna actually spoke to them and explained who they were, what he was. He wanted to be able to do that. So he explained this is the third time
Can
out.
do that if he's a baby.
Yeah, well, then he became a baby. Because Devaki asked, she said, would you please take your most beautiful form, two arms, like that?
She wasn't a baby.
Not at first. No, he appeared before her as baby. And then, what happened next?
And
Let's see.
Vasudeva carried.
Vasudeva said, Kamsa will surely come and kill you immediately, so we got to get you out of here. Right? So what happens? Maya Dev, Durga Devi, Bhadrakali, Nandini, she got so many different names. She appeared in Varanasi, she went all over when she appeared there. Krishna's sister, she is known to fulfill all the desires within the material world. That's his expansion, to fulfill all material desires in the spiritual world. And also to keep people away from Krishna who are not very sincere. So, you've got to overcome Maya. The only way you can do that is by being completely Krishna conscious. And then Maya will allow you access to the Lord. Otherwise, you're forbidden. So, basically what happens is that she then is born simultaneously, and she cast this illusion over the jailers, and the gates open, the locks fall, and everyone goes fast asleep, and Balaram expands as Sheshanaga with the hoods. Vasudeva then goes to the Jamuna River. It's raining very hard at that time. And what does the Jamuna do?
Parts in half.
Parts in half. That's exactly right. There's another story about Balaram who told Jamuna, he was sporting with his gopis in Vrindavan, and he told Jamuna, please come, we're exhausted, we need to touch water because we've been dancing so much now, we're very hot and sweaty, and Jamuna wouldn't listen. So what did Balaram do?
He got angry, right?
He got angry. What did he do? He took his plow and drug Jamuna, and Jamuna finally came in person and offered wonderful prayers. You should read her prayers to Balaram.
Jamuna is a river, right?
Huh?
It's a river. Jamuna is a river.
Yes.
Jamuna River, right, yeah. So he had done that. So, all right, so what happens is Vasudeva rushes him there in the night to the bed of Yasoda and takes the baby girl and brings the baby girl back. And because of Yoga Maya, Devaki is very exhausted and doesn't even know, what child she had. She was now then put into Yoga Maya for the pastime, right? And in that situation, the baby girl was there, and immediately the jailers woke up. Everything was locked again. Vasudeva put shackles on the girl, or put shackles on himself like he had been before. Everything was just like that. And when Kamsa comes, he comes then to kill the baby. So she's begging. Devaki's begging. She's going, please, Kamsa, don't kill the baby. You've killed all my babies. It's a baby girl. You're not going to be killed by a baby girl. Please let me have this last child for my own. And Kamsa goes, ah, and he grabs the baby girl out of her hands and he grabs her by the legs and he's going to dash the baby girl against the stone. And what happens?
Turns into Durga Devi.
Yeah.
What?
She transforms into Durga Devi.
Durga.
Yeah,
Durga.
she flies up into the air in all of her splendor, with all of her weapons, like, as Durga,
Yeah.
and says, Kamsa, you fool! What would be the use in killing me? The one who is going to kill you has already taken his birth. And he's in a different place. And he's like, oh no, how is it I'm foiled again? Right? So he's broken at this point. And what does Kamsa do? This is pretty remarkable what Kamsa
He
does.
starts preaching philosophy, yeah?
Well, he does
He-
preach
he
philosophy.
surrenders and says-
But he does what?
He surrenders. And
He surrenders. Yeah, wow, you guys are pretty erudite scholars. So he surrenders before their feet and repents and begs their forgiveness.
Mhm.
And explains, don't worry, when the soul, when one takes a body, death is certain. Just like Krishna's talking, all of a sudden the philosophy comes out and he's got it all going on. And he says, please forgive me. He's got tears in his eyes. And because of his sincere, repentant nature, what do?
Forgive him.
They forgive him. See, this is amazing. So the Vaishnava is the most compassionate of all, and they displayed ultimate compassion, because if somebody killed 8 of your children, or 7 of your children, 6 of your children, actually 6, if they had done that, would you be willing to forgive? Especially if he's your brother killing your children. It's crazy. So they forgave immediately, and all fear was removed from their heart, all animosity was removed, and Kamsa tearfully left and went back to his palace. So what happened next? Anybody know what happens next? So he goes to the palace, right? And he describes to his council
Yeah.
everything that had taken place.
Oh yeah.
And they're like,
They tell him.
Oh,
and keep
yeah.
in mind, they're demons too.
Yeah.
So they're like, yes, yes, my lord. Immediately we will then go and kill all of the children that have been born within the last 10 days, or maybe a little more. Just for good measure, we'll kill some extras. And by the way, Durga had told him, listen, the child that's going to kill you is already born. Don't kill any more children. You don't need to kill any more children. She told him that. But now his counselors are telling him, no, you should immediately kill. We'll go kill. And then what they did was they advised him. They said, Lord, 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 we are your inheritors. Do you not know that the demigods are afraid of the sound of your bow? That they run fleeing the battlefield in fear, and many of them surrender to you with prayers, Lord, Lord, we're afraid. Please protect us. He said, you have nothing to fear from these demigods. They may boast in private places when there's no battle going on. But they're afraid of you. You have nothing whatsoever to fear from these demigods. Instead, what we should do is we should immediately start persecuting the Brahmins. Why? Because Krishna lives within their heart. Vishnu lives within their heart.
So every Brahmin, or just a child Brahmins?
Mm-mm. All the Brahmins. They say that we should kill the cows and the Brahmins. And why should they kill them?
Krishna resides in their heart.
Exactly. That's the
Even-
way to kill Krishna.
Even in
It's
the
the-
cows?
Yeah. Because without the cow, there's no ghee, there's no butter, there's no sacrificial fire.
Yeah.
And, we can eliminate this this Vishnu.
There's
your mortal
I think
enemies.
he's like any other demigod, where if he doesn't get the offerings, then he'll be weak.
Yeah, that's what they're thinking.
Mm.
And they also said, don't worry about Shiva. Shiva's gone to the forest. And Lord Brahma, he's always engaged in austerity. He's not going to do nothing. The rest of the demigods are frightened of you. So they advised him like this, and he thought for a moment. He said, yes. And he turns and leaves the palace, and immediately they recruit. Who? Who do they recruit?
Putin. Putin.
Putin is one, but there are lots. Trinavarta, Pralambasura, all these great demons. They come out of the woodwork.
Breast milk poison.
They come out of the woodwork. Yeah, there's so many demons that come out of the woodwork.
Putin is the first demon.
Well, there was one other one that kicked a cart, remember, with his feet and killed before. Well, he was still almost newborn.
Can't remember.
Huh, I didn't know. I know there's the trees that.
Well, that's Twin Arjun trees, but that's a different story.
The cart was a demon itself.
No, it was another demon. I can't remember exactly that story, but there are lots of demons. Let's just let's settle with that. So there are multiple demons. They're all listed in Srimad Bhagavatam. If you want to know who they are, you read the whole 10th canto, and you'll see how Krishna and Balaram deal with those demons and kill them all.
The story of Krishna taking birth and trying to kill Krishna is almost similar to the Jesus Christ, isn't it?
Well, let me explain. This is something that you have to know. This was 5,000 years ago. Christ was 2,000 years ago. So try to understand that Krishna enacts this pastime every time he comes. So this pastime is well read and well known by the greater population. So many times people piggyback on that story because that story is very similar. Just like the tax collectors, they had to go for the tax collection and after that. And those things are all in the Vedas. And they've been there for all time. Now, Prabhupada says Jesus, since you brought up Jesus, Prabhupada said Jesus Christ is our guru. We adore Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is the perfect bhakti yogi. He is Shaktivesh. So he is empowered, right? And he is 100% in love with Krishna. He and his father are one in purpose, just like a Chinta Beta Beta Tattva means one yet different, right? One yet different. Just like the drop of the water is not the whole ocean, but it has the same quality of the water. So in the same way, that is how this works. So Jesus Christ preached pure bhakti philosophy.
So that was a similar, because I was reading.
Yeah, it's a similar story. Now, whether we don't know so much because, about 400 years after Christ appeared, the Council of Nicaea decided which books to burn and which ones to allow in. And then also there was the Mandamus of Origin, where they brought all the books together and burned them all. Then we know that the Constantinople library was burned. We know that many of the books that were found, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, Gospel of Mary, Gospel of Thomas, Aquarian Gospels, all these types of Gospels were hidden away and found at a later date. And much of the story of Jesus Christ is told by not his direct disciples, but other historical accounts. So the one thing that we can know for sure, if we listen to Christ's words, we will fall in love with Krishna. There's no question about it. Because he loves Krishna, and he goes to Krishna for every single thing. He goes to God. There's only one God. He has many names, millions of names actually. But Krishna is very descriptive because that's the actual name, Krishna Govinda. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Brahma himself, the first created living entity. If you want to listen to him, who are you going to listen to? He says, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Adir Govinda, Sarva Karanam. In other words, if you have any doubt about who God is, his name is Krishna. And if you want to know a little further, he has a body filled with Satchidananda Vigraha. And further, you can know him as Govinda. So it's not necessary for us to speculate. We don't speculate. We accept the version of the pure devotee who's brought us our information. So now it's time for prasadam.
Thank you.
So we're going to have a little prasadam now, right?
I was going to say also, Prabhupada in Science of Self-Realization, there's the chapter Christ and Krishna, the name is the same, so Greek language, Prabhupada describes Christo actually translates to Krishna in
Right,
English.
yeah.
That's exactly right.
There's a potency behind the name Christ that originates in Krishna. Krishna is the source of everything.
So it's actually Jesus the Christ.
Mhm.
So Jesus the Christ means, the one who propounds Christos or Krishna. So, try to understand, Krishna is the soul of our very soul. So you're a part and parcel of Krishna. So really you and Krishna are one and the same. Just like a spark is the same thing as the fire. It has the same quality as the fire.
Right.
Maybe we should take out there. Let's take it out there just for the benefit of that. So, So I think because Bhavananda is fired up and he's been given an instruction and he's always right on time. He's already
Actually,
got...
I'm a few minutes late, but let's let